What's up everyone, welcome to the Bass Pro Shops Night Race Top 5 DFS Picks video for Saturday, September 17th at the famed Bristol Motor Speedway. This is going to be one of the marquee races of the season. I've had this circled on my calendar the entire year. I love Bristol, I love night races. It's going to be absolutely awesome, mixing the third race of the playoffs. It's got pretty much everything you can ask for. But as always, I'm your host, Chris Pennell. You can find me on Twitter at ChrisPennell16. This video is presented by PrizePicks. In this video, we are going over general track strategy, how to approach this slate from a DFS perspective, and my top 5 favorite plays on the slate. And usually these videos are recorded pre-practice and qualifying, but we actually already have that information, so it's going to make this a whole heck of a lot easier to break down. And if you're wondering how to approach this slate from a DFS perspective, Bristol is a short concrete oval. It's got some steep banking, and the big thing here is that we have 500 laps on the schedule, which equates to just about 350 total Dominator points available to us. So Dominators are going to be supreme this weekend. Place differential, yes, it's nice if you have it, but guys that can get up front, lead a bunch of laps, get some fast laps, are going to be the ones you want to focus on when building lineups this weekend. And we had a ton of practice data to work with, and usually the guys that are good at Bristol are always good at Bristol, so there shouldn't be too many surprises this weekend. But for the most part, the main focus here is going to be getting as many lap leaders, potential lap leaders I should say, in your lineups, as they're going to be the ones that soak up the most points. And as small as this track is, when you can make laps in around 14 to 16 seconds, they come in a hurry. You're going to be missing out if you don't have any of these guys in your lineups. And getting into the picks, we will start with number 5 here, and it's no other than the pole sitter for this race, and he's very cheap for a pole sitter, but it's Eric Almirola, $7,000 on DraftKings, only $6,200 over on FanDuel. And while he was a bit of a surprise to be the pole sitter here, it wasn't because he had a lack of speed in practice. We just usually see a bigger name up front, but he did have a strong practice session. Was 5th in the 10 lap, 3rd in the 15, 3rd in the 20, 4th in the 25, so it seems like he's got a good long run car. Obviously in the short run he put down a really good qualifying lap, so there should be no issues there. And as long as he gets a good jump to the start of the race and gets out front, clears Chase Briscoe, that's also starting on the front row, there's a good chance for him to lead 30 to 60 laps here, because I don't think he's going to be the best car in this race. I think a Kyle Larson or Denny Hamlin can get to him in stage 1. But by the time they get there, if 40 laps have already passed, and Eric Almirola got a decent chunk of the fast laps mixed in there as well, he's well on his way to having a very good DFS day, especially in cash games at only $7,000. So while it can be a little bit scary to roster not a huge name that's on the pole, it's easier to do when there's a 500 lap race and it might be tougher to pass at the beginning. So starting in first at this price point, it's going to be really hard for me to get away from a good chunk of Eric Almirola in my lineups. And moving on to number 4, we're going with the seasoned vet here in Kevin Harvick, who is way too cheap on DraftKings at $8,500, but a bit pricey on FanDuel at $12,000. But he's starting in 7th, has the 4th best odds to win this race over in Vegas. But looks like he has a very good long run car according to practices. He was top 2 across the board from 15 laps and on. And Bristol has been a very good track for him. He won a race recently, has a couple top 5s mixed in, dominated this race last year and the one before that in the fall. 3 top 10s, a good chunk of Dominator points as far as laps led and fast laps are concerned. And he's been one of the more overall consistent drivers this year, and he's finished in the top 10 at each concrete race that we've had this year, Dover and Nashville. So I think Harvick's a threat to dominate, but even at his price point, if he can just be a top 5 contender picking up fast laps, he's still not a bad play. But I do think there's a chance he can get up front. He has been very strong at the short tracks the past few seasons. And while this isn't a short flat track, Bristol's still been a good one for him. And like I said, this is unique. So drivers that are typically good at Bristol just tend to be good there almost each and every single time. But before we get into our next pick, I want to talk about our sponsor, PrizePicks. They offer daily prop-based contests, and you can use promo code OSMO for a $100 first match deposit bonus. There's no sharks, optimizers, or mass entries, and 5-player lineups can add up to 10 times your entry fee. Use knowledge of multiple sports with cross-sport entries. You can download in the App Store, on Google Play, or play over on PrizePicks.com. You can use their free player prop tools to help you make the best selections across all sports. And the kicker here is that you can get a 1 free month of Stokastic plus Platinum when you sign up and receive your email within 24 to 48 hours after to redeem your free month of Stokastic plus Platinum. And moving on to number 3, it's a very similar play to Kevin Harvick as they do start right next to each other. But it's Ryan Blaney, $8,900 on DraftKings, which I think is way too cheap for a potential dom, starting close to the front, but $11K over on FanDuel. He's starting in 6th, But Bristol is one of his best tracks. Now, there's been a couple times when he's running up front and he gets wrecked out, but we can chalk that up to bad luck. Outside of that, the past few seasons here, he's got a couple top fives mixed in. The second most laps led per race, a good chunk of fast laps. He finished third at Nashville early in the season, one of the other concrete tracks that we have. But overall, this has just been a great track for Blaney. I think the Ford should have some speed this weekend, and his price point with his Dominator upside, he's definitely looking like a steal on DraftKings. And moving on to number 2, we're going with the Candyman here, who just signed a new contract with a new team for next season. But it's Kyle Busch, $10,500 on DraftKings, 12.5 over on FanDuel. And this is really our first place differential driver that we're talking about. He starts all the way back in 21st, but still has the third best odds to win this race over in Vegas. And I think that's just really just some respect from Vegas here, just because of how good Kyle Busch is at Bristol. He's averaging the second most DraftKings points per race here, the second best average finish. Has a win, the most top fives the past 6 races, with that being 4 out of 6. He's also looked pretty strong in practice as well. So he's kind of a hybrid play here. He's got place differential, but he can also be a main threat to dominate and win this race. So a 10.5 and 12.5 over on both sites respectively. I definitely think he looks like one of the top dogs to use this weekend. And moving on to my number 1 play for the Bass Pro Shops night race at Bristol Motor Speedway. Gonna go with Kyle Busch's teammate here, Denny Hamlin, the most expensive driver on both sites. 11.5 on DK, 14K over on FanDuel. Starting close to the front in the top 5 in the 4th position. Still has the best odds to win this race over in Vegas. Swept practice in the lap intervals that he ran. First in the 1 lap, first in the 5, and first in the 10. Didn't get anything in the long run, but Bristol has been a great track for Denny Hamlin. He's been fast almost everywhere this year, just has had a lot of issues, which have skewed some of his overall numbers. But he's been a dominator here in the past. He won a race right here recently, and it's really hard to bet against the speed that he's had. He was fast at Nashville, where he finished 6th. 21st at Dover, but I'm willing to look past that. Overall, just been one of the strongest cars this year, and actually has the second most laps led per race the past few seasons at similar tracks, which is basically just Dover and Bristol, but he's been obviously great at either one of them, and so far this season, also with some of the most dominator points per race. So Denny Hamlin, while he's expensive, it's not going to matter if it comes out, leads 200, 300 laps, which is certainly possible, because he'll still end up being the best play despite that price point. And he does have a decently easy path to dominate. No disrespect to Aric Almirola, because I like him. I already talked about him earlier. But he only has to pass Chase Briscoe, Alex Bowman, and Aric Almirola to get to the front. And no disrespect to those guys, but Denny Hamlin is someone that I would definitely take over all those guys in a one-on-one battle. So if he can get up front in stage 1, I think there's a good chance Denny Hamlin puts on a clinic for this race. Just to recap, at number 5, we have Aric Almirola. Number 4, Kevin Harvick. Number 3, Ryan Blaney. Number 2, Kyle Busch. And number 1, Denny Hamlin. All these guys have either showed some speed in practice, I like their price points, or I like where they're starting this week. With that being said, that's all I got for you guys this week. If you did enjoy today's free content, just leave a like on the video, subscribe if you're new, and leave a comment down below if you agree or disagree with any of the takes I had throughout today's video. If you just want to tell us some of your favorite picks, we're free to do just that, as we'd love to hear from all of our members over on Stokastic. No live show this weekend, so if you have any questions, you can leave them down in the comments below. I'd be more than happy to answer them if I am able to see them in a timely manner. But I wish you all the best of luck, and I absolutely cannot wait for this race.